Hey guys, welcome back. And today I am back with another video. It's been a minute since I've done one. But today we are going to be going over who I think is going to be a breakout star for all 32 NFL teams. So we went through, we got some offensive players, we've got some defensive players, we got some offensive linemen, lots of different players here from your favorite team. And let me know down below, who do you think is going to be a breakout star for your favorite team? Also, I've got my Twitter here with a QR code. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I upload all sorts of stuff over there. So be sure to check that out and stay tuned because we will be starting my season preview videos starting on the 10th. So we will be going from the worst team to the best team, and we will be breaking down each team in the NFL and kind of where I think they finish their record prediction, going through some of their top storylines, team MVP, all sorts of stuff. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to hit that like button. But without further ado, let's kick this off with the Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be cornerback Kyer Elam. Every single year we seem to go into this Buffalo team. They got to improve the secondary. They've got to improve the secondary. And they spent a first round pick on Florida cornerback Kyer Elam in the 2022 NFL draft. Didn't have the most amazing rookie season in the world, but I think he's going to get to another level here. On the opposite side of Tre'Davious White, he should be fully healthy. I think Elam showed some flashes. He was very good. I liked him a lot at Florida. I think he's going to take that extra jump and really solidify himself as a top CB2 next to Tre'Davious White and be that guy that the Bills thought he was going to be when they drafted him in the first round. So I think he's going to take a big jump this year for the Bills and be a huge part of their team. Next up, we've got cornerback Kadir Kohu out from Miami. Probably butchered that last name. Cater. This is a guy who actually had a really solid season last year for Miami. Did a lot of really good things. And I think this year he's going to take an even bigger jump. Now, they went out and traded for Jalen Ramsey this year. So a lot of people think he's probably going to be used less. I actually think that's going to help him out even more. They could put him in the slot, or maybe they want to move Howard in the slot. I'm not really sure what that cornerback room is going to look like. I think he's going to get a lot more targets, though, because you've got Howard and Ramsey on the outside. I think people are going to be looking to try and expose him. And in Vic Fangio's defense, he's really good at developing these corners. I think he's going to have a really big season. I think he could have an even bigger season than Xavier Howard this year and be a really solid piece. So I like Cater a lot. I think he's going to be a great player for Miami, and I think he's going to be their biggest riser and rising star of the 2023-24 NFL season. Next up, we've got Tyquan Thornton on the New England Patriots. I like Thornton. They drafted him pretty high last year. He dealt with some injuries. He's got great size and good speed, but I think they add Juju Smith-Schuster. This receiver core, if he's healthy, should be, in theory, a little bit better. You've got Kendrick Bourne. You've got Juju now. You've got Thornton. And then the tight end room, I think he's going to take a bigger jump. And a big reason is they now have an offensive play caller. Bill O'Brien coming in from Alabama to be the play caller. No more Matt Patricia calling plays. I think he's going to do a lot for Tyquan Thornton. I think he's going to have a really solid season and be a piece that New England feels comfortable with. Even though they haven't drafted receivers well in the past, I think he's going to have a really good year. I think Thornton is going to be a solid piece. Then we've got Mekhi Becton on the Jets. Now, as my friend the mock draft guy says, throughout his career, he's been made of glass bones and paper skin. I'm hoping he could stay healthy. We'll really bank it on his health here. Now, he's shown a lot of upside when he has been healthy. I don't know if he's going to be on the team either. The Jets are such a weird team because it was between Mekhi Becton or Jermaine Johnson. You guys can take that, however, and I'll talk about Jermaine Johnson as well a little bit, but I think this team just needs a huge player on their offensive line. And if Becton's healthy, I think he's going to be that guy. You'll get Elijah Vera Tucker coming back. I think this offensive line should be better, especially if Becton can stay healthy. They drafted him, I believe, number 11 overall in the 2020 draft. And it's been a really up and down career for him, dealt with a lot of injuries. I think if he can stay healthy, he can have a career year and help the Jets as they look to make the playoffs. And Jermaine Johnson's a guy who they selected last year at the 26th overall pick. Was more of a rotational pass rusher. I think he should get more usage in this year's team. And I think he's going to have an even higher ceiling this year. I think he'll get more pressures, more sacks, and be used more in this defense. Because when he played last year, he showed some upside. They drafted him in the first round, traded up for him in the first round for a reason. I think he's going to be used well in this team. Becton or Johnson is my pick for the Jets. And then we got David Ojabo on the Baltimore Ravens. Now, with Patrick Queen not getting his option extended, I think we're going to see a little bit more David Ojabo. This was a guy who I had mocked in my top 15 before the unfortunate Achilles injury. Now he's got a full offseason to really work with this team, get with this defense. And I think this defense, which was already really strong, is going to get even better adding Ojabo, who's quick. He's got great speed, and he's a really good pass rusher. Played great alongside Aiden Hutchinson at Michigan. I think he's got a really good year ahead of him. And I've got Ojabo being a breakout star for the Ravens. Then we've got Dax Hill from the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals really believe in their safety core. Now, I was pretty surprised. They picked up Nick Scott in free agency, and they kept Daxton Hill. I thought if you looked at the board, they should have gone and got a Brian Branch or added some more safety help in the draft, maybe trade for a safety. They didn't do it, which really shows they believe in Dax Hill. And I liked him a lot coming into the draft. I think he is going to have a good year, and he's not really the weakness here. I'm curious to see what Nick Scott's going to do, but Dax Hill, I think, is going to have a really good season. Now, they moved off of Jesse Bates. He's going to Atlanta now, and they must really have believed in him. They drafted him the year before. He's good in the backfield. He's a good in coverage. I like what he's going to be able to do there. The Bengals used their safeties quite a bit. Bates and Von Bell were very effective for them. I think now it's going to be a new era, and I like what Daxton Hill is to this team. He got to learn under Jesse Bates for a year. Now he gets to be the main focal point in that safety room, and I think he's going to have a big season. Then we've got Elijah Moore, from the Cleveland Browns. Now, I really like Elijah Moore. I'm going to be very, very intrigued to see what happens. At the time of recording this, DeAndre Hopkins has not made his announcement on where he's going to sign. I feel like it's going to be Cleveland. But Elijah Moore, I think, could be a perfect slot for this team with Amari Cooper on the outside. You got DeAndre Hopkins as well. And then you get Elijah Moore. Or I think he's a slot even without Hopkins with DPJ on the outside. He showed some flashes, really good route runner for the Jets. Unfortunately, when you have Zach Wilson throwing you the ball, you're not getting the ball thrown to you. And I think Elijah Moore is excited to get on New York. I think he's already been building chemistry with Deshaun Watson. I think Watson's going to have a big year. I think Cleveland's going to be a really good team. And I think Elijah Moore is going to be a big part of that. They needed a receiver, and they went and got maybe one of the ones with the highest upside. And I love what he's going to be able to do for them. And speaking of receivers, we got George Pickens here of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, he had a pretty good rookie season, showed some real flashes. He's got incredible hands, good size, and I think that's only going to improve. The Steelers, another year, Kenny Pickett's going to get the full first-team reps this year, obviously. We know he's the starter going in, and I think that's going to really benefit everyone else on this team. He's going to be able to build chemistry with these receivers. Pickens also has a veteran coming in like Allen Robinson, who I think is going to help develop him. Pickens, we saw what he was able to do last year. I think he is going to eclipse 1,000 yards this year. I think he's going to solidify himself as one of the better receivers in the NFL. Moving on to the Houston Texans, I think it's Kenyon Green. Now, this offensive line, they did make some moves. They drafted Juice Scruggs. They drafted Jarrett Patterson. They made some moves in the draft, but they drafted Kenyon Green in the first round last year, and I think he is going to have to take a jump up or he will get benched, unfortunately, and he didn't have the most amazing rookie season in the world. I think that's going to change. Offensive line, as we know, look at Andrew Thomas, is a position that takes some time to really get right. It's really hard that transition from college to the pros is difficult. I think Kenyon Green probably is another victim of that. He's got Laramie Tunsil. They drafted Juice Scruggs, Titus Howard, Shaq Mason's in there. This offensive line looks pretty darn good. I think Kenyon Green needs to take a jump up. He is my pick here. John Mechie could take a jump up. Obviously, he didn't play last year. Nico Collins could take a jump up. This team has a lot of really interesting guys, but I think Kenyon Green is my pick to take that big jump up, and I'll be interested to see what happens there. For my Indianapolis Colts, Jelani Woods, I think, is the guy who is going to be the big riser for this team. Huge. He's got incredible size, and now he's got a quarterback who can move around and throw him the ball. A big tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. I think Woods and Anthony Richardson are going to have some incredible plays together. That combo is going to be lethal, and I love what Jelani Woods is going to be able to do. So he's my pick to break out for the Colts in 2023. Then we've got the number one overall pick from the 2022 NFL Draft, Trayvon Walker. It's a guy who actually played pretty solid as a rookie. He had some really good moments. I think he's going to take a even bigger jump. I think he could get close to double-digit sacks this year. This guy's just an athletic freak. He's got incredible speed and size and strength. And I'm not really sure what's going to happen with Josh Allen. There seems to be some buzz there, but Trayvon Walker is an absolute monster. And I think another year in the NFL where he can just learn the game, get right. I think he's going to have a massive year for the Jags. And I think he's going to be one of the better edge rushers in the NFL this year. Then we've got the Tennessee Titans, and I think Christian Fulton's going to break out. If you look at this cornerback duo, Roger McCreary, Christian Fulton, Caleb Farley, they don't really have that X factor number one corner. And I think Fulton is going to be that guy this year. I believe he's on a contract year for the Titans, was drafted in 2020, I believe. And I think he needs to take a huge jump for this team. He's shown some flashes. He was good at LSU, but he needs to get some consistency. And I think this Titans team is the only way they're going to be good is because of their defense. I'm not a believer in that offense. I think Fulton's going to have a good year for them. He's my pick to break out. And it seems like we've been talking about it for about 3 years now, but I think Jerry Jeudy needs to break out for the Denver Broncos. I think it's going to happen this year. They got a new head coach. They got Sean Payton in there. I think that's going to be huge. I always point to the last couple of weeks for this season with the Denver Broncos after Nathaniel Hackett was fired. Because when you look at this team, Russell Wilson looked very solid. The offensive line played better. This offensive line really improved. If you can buy Russ a little bit of time to allow him to throw the ball, I think Jerry Jeudy could have 1,000 yards this year. This is a guy with all the talent in the world, great size, great speed off the line. I think he's going to take a big jump this year. I've got Jerry Jeudy as one of my biggest risers this year for the Denver Broncos. Then we got another receiver here, Justin Ross from the Kansas City Chiefs, a UDFA last year who, if it wasn't for some health concerns, would have gotten drafted. But I think the Chiefs are absolutely in love with this guy. Patrick Mahomes has been praising him for over a year now. I think he's going to have a really, really good season. This receiver core is really weird with Kadarius Toney and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and it's pretty small. I think Ross is going to slide in, be an immediate impact for this team. I think he's going to have a really good year, and he's my pick for the Chiefs. Then we got Dylan Parham of the Las Vegas Raiders. Another situation similar to Kenyon Green. Now, Parham didn't have a bad rookie season by any stretch of the imagination. He was actually pretty solid. I think he's going to get to another level this year. They didn't really make any moves on their offensive line this year. And the Raiders' offensive line has been very lackluster, to say the least. I think Parham is going to take a huge jump for them. Was drafted in the 3rd round, played pretty well as a starter, and I think he's going to get to another level. I like what he's going to be able to do. This Raiders team is so weirdly built with a lot of veterans, not a ton of super young talent because they haven't had a lot of draft picks. But I think Dylan Parham's going to have a good season. Speaking of Parhams, I think Donald Parham is going to have a year for the Chargers. Now, you look at they bring in Kellen Moore, and this is a team that loves to use, this is a guy who loves to use his tight ends. We saw him use Dalton Schultz and Jake Ferguson, who you'll be seeing later on in this. I think Donald Parham is one of the younger tight ends on this Chargers team and the one with the most upside. He's got good size. He's got a good build. I think he's going to be used a little bit more on this Chargers offense than we've seen in years prior. I think he's going to take a big jump. Then we've got Jake Ferguson, who I just mentioned. This is going to be interesting to see how the reps go now that Dalton Schultz is gone. Is it going to be Luke Schoonmaker or is it going to be Jake Ferguson? Ferguson was very good for the Cowboys last year when he was used. I think he's going to have another really solid year. This Cowboys team is very well built. They've got a good offensive line. And if Dak can get the guys the ball, I think he's going to have a really solid year. So I've got Jake Ferguson having a solid year for the Cowboys. Then we've got Azeez Ojulari on the opposite side of Kayvon Thibodeau, who would have been the other guy in this. I like Ojulari. He has just not been able to stay healthy a ton throughout his NFL career. I know he missed the beginning of last year. Ojulari has a lot of upside. He's super quick off the edge. I think he's going to have a great season for the Giants. I think this defense is going to take another step up. This Giants team, I think, is primed for a big year. And I think Ojulari being healthy is really going to help them get to that next level. Then we've got Nakobe Dean from the Philadelphia Eagles, especially with TJ Edwards leaving. I think Nakobe Dean is going to go in and fill that role immediately. This is a guy who I thought was a first round pick, had some injury concerns, fell to the third round, and the Eagles took him. I mean, it's a perfect fit for him. This defense is going to use him perfectly. He's going to be an awesome fit there. And I think you saw what this team did defensively last year. Nakobe Dean's a young, quick linebacker, and I think he's going to have a good year for the Eagles. Then we got Sam Howell from the Washington Commanders, a guy who I'm a big fan of. I actually think Howell is going to be really good. It's weird because I think Howell's going to have a good season, but I think the Commanders are not going to have an amazing season. And I think that they're probably still going to draft a quarterback anyways next year, depending on where they land in my rankings. I think Howell's going to be great for them. He's can move around in the pocket. He's got a good arm, and we saw it on display in that Cowboys game. We saw it at UNC, and I think he's going to continue that progress. I just don't know how much I love the coaching. This is a weird roster. We'll get into that in my Commanders video, but I think Howell is going to have a solid season. Then we've got DeMarcus Walker on the Chicago Bears. Now, he was signed from the Tennessee Titans in free agency, and I actually think he's going to be one of the more underrated free agent signings here. He was used pretty well. He had a number of sacks. And if you look at this edge rush of the Chicago Bears, it's not very good. So I think DeMarcus Walker is going to come in, be that number one edge rusher. I think he could get to 10 sacks this year just because I think he's going to be on the field a lot for the Bears. And he fits the scheme really perfectly. I like DeMarcus Walker to have a really solid season for Chicago. Then we get Jameson Williams on the Detroit Lions. Now, the Lions were tough because I do think he is going to have a really, really good year. He's going to be missing some time due to a suspension for gambling, violating the league's gambling policy. But I think Jameson Williams is going to be fantastic. He's speedy. He's got good hands. Didn't see the field a lot last year due to injury, but when he did, he made an impact. And I think from everything we're hearing from the Lions camp early, Jameson Williams has been super impressive. I think he's going to have another really solid year. Then it's Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. This guy was a first-round pick. He's been sitting on the bench since 2020. It's time to give this guy a chance. And obviously, I'm not saying he deserved a chance. Aaron Rodgers is on the roster, but he's shown flashes, especially in that Eagles game. I was pretty impressed. I think this is a no-brainer here. I think he is going to break out in a big way. The Packers signed him to that one-year deal, so we'll be very interested to see kind of what ends up happening after this year. But for this year, at least, I think Jordan Love is your guy, and I think he's going to have a really good season for the Packers. KJ Osborne, this one was interesting. Has he broken out yet? In a way, yes, but I think his numbers are going to go up even more this year. They brought in Jordan Addison. He's the number 2 receiver. KJ Osborne, I think, is the number 2 receiver, especially after losing Thielen. And I love what he's going to be able to do. He's a perfect complement. He's a speedy gadget type receiver that you could use opposite of Justin Jefferson. And I think he's going to have a really good year for this team. I like his fit. This offense is going to be good. Why not? Next up, we've got Desmond Ridder. We're going to continue this trend of second-year quarterbacks getting it. And the Falcons are interesting. They refuse to trade for Lamar Jackson because they believe in Desmond Ridder, which leads me to believe in him as well. I think Ridder is going to be an interesting guy. They've improved this team around him. They went out and got Bijan Robinson. They have Kyle Pitts. They've got Drake London. The question is, will they throw the ball this year? Because obviously they got an incredible run attack. I think they need to get a full evaluation of Desmond Ridder. Let's see what he can do through the air because he showed some flashes. We saw some chemistry with Drake London. Let's see it. And I got Ridder as a breakout player. Then we got Laviska Shenault. Now, don't mind the Saints player just creeping behind him. From what we're hearing in Carolina, it's very intriguing. I think there's a number of receivers that could break out in Carolina. Terrace Marshall, Laviska Shenault. Obviously, they got Jonathan Mingo and they got Adam Thielen. I think Shenault is going to end up being one of the better receivers on this team. They're trying to use him in a Deebo Samuel role, which I love. I loved him coming out of Colorado. I think he's got good speed. He's going to be a really good gadget player. I actually really love that for him. I think he could be used a bunch of different ways. had a pretty solid season last year, all things considered. I think he's going to take an even bigger jump up with a better quarterback, better coaching. I think Chenault's going to be a really good player for the Panthers this year. Then we've got Paulson Adebo from the New Orleans Saints. Now, I think he's coming off a bit of a down year for the Saints. I think he's a really good corner, was drafted in the first round. Um, no, I don't believe he's a first round pick. Either way, Adebo, I think, is going to be really big. Lattimore is good. They need that number 2 corner, and I think Paulson Adebo is going to be able to do that. I like what he's going to be able to do. Size, speed, all of that. You need that in your corners. He provides it. I think he's going to have a good year for the Saints. It's Rachaad White for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't really see it being any other name. They didn't draft a running back high, at least. And this quarterback room is bad. I love Baker Mayfield. The clips I'm seeing from Tampa practice, I'm out on Baker being a starting quarterback in the league. Kyle Trask, I think he's Kyle Trash. You've heard the memes. This team's going to need to run the football because I don't think they're going to be able to pass very much. I think Rachaad White is fantastic. He was great for my fantasy team last year. He played better than Leonard Fournette last year. I think year 2 in the league, he's going to get an even bigger jump. Give me Rachaad White as a breakout guy for the Buccaneers. Zaven Collins, from what I'm reading, they might make him an edge rusher this year, which I'm not sure how I feel about. But either way, I do like Zaven Collins. He led this team in tackles last year. I think he's going to lead this team in tackles again this year. I like what Zaven Collins is going to do. I think he's going to be a great piece in this defense. I'll be interested to see what happens with Budda Baker, but Zaven Collins is my guy. I like what he's going to be able to do. I think he's going to be the best player on the Cardinals next year. Sneak peek for a future video, but I like Zaven Collins quite a bit. Then we've got Kobe Durant on the Los Angeles Rams. You lose Jalen Ramsey, you need a cornerback to step up in his spot, and I think Kobe Durant's going to do that. I like what he's going to be able to do. He showed flashes as a rookie. He's got good size. He's got good ball skills, and I like his fit here. I think Kevin Durant's cousin is going to do really, really good things for the Rams this year and break out in a big way for that team. Then we've got Colton McKivitz, the replacement for Mike McGlinchey. The 49ers did draft well. We shouldn't be questioning Colton McKivitz. I think he's going to be great for this team. They drafted him, I want to say, in the 4th or 5th round back in 2020. And I think he's finally getting his opportunity now with Mike McGlinchey out the door as he's headed to Denver. I think he's going to take a big step up, help this team out, and we'll see what he ends up doing. I think he's going to be the breakout guy for San Francisco. And finally, it's Noah Fant. I've been waiting for this guy to really have that big season. I was really high on him when he was drafted. And Seattle, they use their cornerbacks a little bit. I think they're going to be really good. And I think he's going to, with the defenses really focused on JSN and Lockett and Metcalf, he might get some open passes. Now, are they going to use him with Will Dissly and some of the other tight ends? I hope so, because I think he's got a lot of upside, was part of that Russell Wilson trade, but we'll see what Seattle ends up doing. He's my pick to be their breakout star. But that's going to do it for me in this video, guys. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you are new, and leave a comment. And let me know who you guys think your favorite team's breakout star will be in the 2023-24 NFL season. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.